Hello again, everybody. This is Josh Hoover with Benefit Technology Resources, and we are back with our second installment in our Back to School series. And we have today with us three teachers. We have Dustin Kline. He's a high school teacher out of Atlanta, Georgia. We have Shannon Hoover, who's an elementary school teacher in Salt Lake City, Utah. And Kyle Fleming, who is also a high school teacher out of Jacksonville, Florida. So we wanted to bring them together to just have a conversation and share their experiences and how COVID-19 and the pandemic and having to work with their students remotely, how that's changed how they work and how they're leveraging technology to do so. So we're just going to make this conversational, have a little fun with it. And we're going to talk over each other at some point. That's just the nature of these, as you well know. But Dustin, I'm going to start with you. How has your role as a teacher changed due to the pandemic? And how are you leveraging technology? What technology are you using? What does all that look like for you?
Sure. So we are in Gwinnett County in Atlanta. We are in a hybrid situation. So our first 2 weeks, and we're finishing that up right now, has been fully virtual. Every kid has been at home. We're doing it virtually. And then starting in a couple days, we'll have ninth graders come on campus. And then a week later, we'll have sophomores come on campus. And a week after that, the rest of the school will be here. And so my role has obviously gone from having students all day, every day, to having no students in my room all day. And then here in a couple days and a week after that, I'm going to have a few students in the room, and most of my students will be at home. And so it's really changed my role from learning what am I teaching, how am I teaching it, to how do I just get the information to kids. And I really see myself as more of a facilitator right now of keeping the kids confident in the technology they're using every day, getting them online each day, and the content is almost secondary to an extent. And so we're trying to get them all the content we can in the best format and the best way that we can, but we're trying to keep kids confident and engaged and really involved in school on a daily basis right now. We're using a lot of Zoom. We did not have Zoom in the spring when we went into our pandemic mode, and we were kind of scrambling, and then now the county has added Zoom for us as a county, and so that's been incredibly helpful. My students are on Google Classroom. They all have Gmail accounts, and we use a lot of Google to share documents and have things turned in and all of the above. And then I'm using a program called Remind, which is a text messaging app that I can text kids without having their phone numbers and without them having my phone numbers. And that's been incredibly useful for kids to say, hey, coach, my internet just logged out in the middle of class. I didn't run away, but I'm trying to get it back up. Or, hey, coach, I wasn't able to download this file. Is that going to be okay? And so we're doing the best we can with technology. The kids are really, really doing the best they can with technology. I've been incredibly impressed with our students and what they're bringing to the table every day. I think the big scare and nerve for teachers, and I'm sure Kyle and Shannon can comment on that, okay, if we go fully digital, are the kids going to be able to log on? Are they going to be there? Are they going to wake up every day? And all of the above. And so far, our kids are really doing a great job. I've been incredibly proud of them on that end.
That's great. And Shannon, same question to you. How, as an elementary teacher, how has that been for you? Is it a little different from your perspective, or what does the tech look like on your side?
Yeah, so we actually have not started school yet. We are going to start school solely online. We're going to be online through the first trimester, so through October. And then at that point, they'll reevaluate our COVID rates in the city. I'm actually in the city of Salt Lake City, so I'm in the Salt Lake City School Districts, and we are the only district in Utah that is going back solely online. So we've had a lot of pushback because everybody wants to be back in school. And so we're actually starting 2 weeks later than our anticipated date. We're starting on Tuesday, the 8th of September. And starting today, we're actually meeting and greeting with families, one family at a time in school, and meeting with them to provide them with all the technology and all of the paper products and everything that they need to start the school year. And so our district has moved to solely using Canvas as our technology platform. And I really liked getting to work with Canvas, but I will say I feel like it's it's a big platform for little kindergartners. And so that's something that my teammates and I have really been working with, is how can we simplify the technology so that we don't rely solely on our parents to provide the instruction for our kindergartners. Like Dustin, we're using Zoom as well, and Zoom was not something that our district was using when we went, when we were in pandemic mode in March, but we are using Zoom solely starting here in the fall. And I think our biggest worry, and what's making us most nervous, I think, like Dustin also said, is that we just really feel like, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and we just really feel like it's really difficult to establish relationships online. And as you guys know, it's hard to have student buy-in when the students don't know you, and when they're not used to sitting on a computer, and when they need an actual classroom. And so my team has spent a lot of time the last couple weeks just gearing up for that. We are providing our kindergartners with a lot of paper pencil activities, because we do think that they need that in their hands. But then we're also trying to gear up for the technology side of things and make sure that we are following district mandates as far as what we use and how we use it.
Excellent. Kyle, what about you? Anything different on your side as well?
Yeah, so we're starting Monday. We haven't started yet. I'll have students on Monday, and we've allowed for parents to make decisions on whether they want to send their kids back face-to-face, we're calling it brick and mortar, or allowing them to go virtual. And so my role has changed in that. So, last spring when we went fully virtual, and I was communicating virtually and creating lesson plans, knowing all of my kids were going to be at home, and that's how I was going to communicate with them. Now I have to be ready to teach the kids in my class, and about a third, so at our school district, about a third of them are staying home, and so about 2/3 of them will be in class. So I've got a pretty close to full classroom, but within those same class periods, I've got kids that are going to be live and online and having to learn online as well. So it's almost like doing a lesson and a half. So I've got to make sure that I've got anything that I do will work well with the kids in class and work well with the kids at home. So that's where the role changes some, is that I've got this mix of stuff. I mean, Dustin was talking about being a facilitator, is you really are, because you've got them in two different spaces, it's better to get them the information up front and then help and facilitate as much as you can when they're either in your class or live virtually. So we use a couple of different things. We use a lot of Microsoft stuff. So we use like OneDrive, and we have the options to use Microsoft Teams. But what most of our school district uses is a platform called Schoology. And our kids are really, really comfortable with that because they use it in middle school and they use it throughout the district. Schoology has a live feature in it. And so that's kind of what I've used, but we can use Zoom, but the district hasn't purchased it. So we have some limited capabilities with Zoom. But we can use Microsoft Teams or the live feature in Schoology. So that's kind of where we're at.
Excellent. Kind of a quick follow-up question, probably for all three of you, but Shannon, I'll start with you. You mentioned building relationships with the students. It's funny, when the pandemic started and all of my meetings went remote and webcam, that was one of the things adults were kind of struggling with, getting used to the webcam component of it. How have the kids responded to that?
I do feel like I find myself using a lot of the same techniques that I used in the classroom to get their attention. Like, if you can hear me, put your finger on your nose, or, like random things like that. But thanks, Josh. But I think that's hard. And so I think that we're going to start, my team and I have decided that we're really going to start the year off with starting a lot of those routines, a lot of those behavioral and academic routines. We're going to start those on Zoom, because really we don't want to keep our kids on the screen the whole time, but we also want to keep them actively engaged and learning. And so whether it be incorporating brain breaks or just incorporating some of the catchy phrases that we use to get their attention, or so that we know that they are paying attention. We're just going to have to spend a lot of time doing that. And so I think that trying to find a good balance between doing that and the academic side is going to be a challenge, especially this year.
I really noticed a wide spectrum of this. Like, I had some kids who were absolutely miserable and like sending me contacts, like, you know, contacting me every day that they were miserable being outside the classroom and doing stuff virtually, to all the way to kids that were flourishing, like kids who really struggled, that maybe they were introverts or, you know, whatever, who got home and like flourished, and all of a sudden they were grasping content and getting and developing skills that they were really struggling with in the classroom, and everything in between. Now, I think some of that's a product of older kids too. I have to imagine the younger the students, the more they're going to struggle with virtual. That would be my guess.
And something that we've really kind of gotten a little bit of pushback from lately from families is that our district, despite the feedback that they got from the pandemic back in March and April and May, our district is very adamant about us following a set schedule throughout the whole day. So starting at 8:15 and then going until 1:45, we have this schedule. So it's not, though our Zoom is recorded, they're expecting families to be live for a certain amount of time, like be live with us for a certain amount of time, and then go work independently, and then come check back, and then go work independently. So that when and their theory is that when we go back to school, that students will be they'll know what our schedule and our routine is, and so it'll make it that much easier when they return to school. But I'm already hearing from families saying, like, we do school when the other kid naps, or we do school when mom and dad get home from work, or whatever that may be. So I'm a little worried about the inflexibility of it.
Dustin, what's that? You've gone on a schedule, right? Like where the kids have to be. Yeah. And so we're doing that now where we didn't in the spring. How has that been? Like, have you had trouble with kids saying they can't get on at certain times?
No, it's been really good, actually.
Oh, good.
I think it's and our kids are obviously older, and so they're more independent, and they don't necessarily need mom and dad. But it's created a sense of, hey, we're in school, let's do this. Whereas in the spring, it was kind of like, let's get through May, and everybody's in this together, and we'll do the best we can, but we understand. But we're in a situation now, where it's, 7:20 hits, you're logged in, let's rock and roll. And so there have been technology times where we had a quiz last week, and a student wasn't in taking her quiz. So I just hit her on her mind and said, hey, are you okay? Can I help with anything? She said, sorry, I don't have a computer right now. I only have my phone, and I can take the quiz on the computer, but I don't have that. My younger brother or sister was using it at the time. And so you just have to be flexible on our end with that to the best of our ability. But Josh, I wanted to comment on the webcams a little bit, because that's something that is way different now than the spring. And we have, like Kyle said, such a range of kids, where some kids are like, as soon as they log on, their camera's on, their mic's on, they're talking, they're trying to find out what's going on with all their friends. And then some kids, they never turn the camera on. You don't know if they're there or not. And on a teacher end, I think you just have to be patient, and you have to understand that everybody's in a different scenario, and the kid's phone might work that day, it might not work that day. They might have little cousin hanging all over them because they're trying to help them do their kindergarten work for Miss Hoover, and they're trying to do their social studies work for Coach Fleming on the other side. And so I've been trying to be really patient, but we do ask them to turn it on. And I do think that's an important piece is, when we're here, let's turn the cameras on if your device has it for the day, because it creates that sense of community and that socialization. And I think they enjoy seeing each other's environments. And so I've seen some really cool bedrooms with kids with LED lights and posters and TVs in the corner. And I think talking about that helps build a relationship. But it's tough. It's tough to get to know the kids, and, learning names is so much harder now than if we were in the building. And I think that's just kind of part of it. And we're doing the best we can. I'm lucky the program, I'm in like a business school within our school. And so all of my sophomores had all of their classes together last year as freshmen. So they already know each other. So we some of that icebreaker stuff we didn't necessarily need to do as much, and they're a little bit more comfortable with each other, which has been good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not
it's funny
pumped
you
about
mentioned.
for the kids that are not in class. I'm going to struggle with that.
It's tough.
Like I'll have a class of 30, and 5 of them are going to be at home, and 25 of them are trying to learn their names. I'm going to forget about those other 5. I'm worried. Like I'm going to have to really focus and make sure I know who they are.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So
funny you mentioned, the webcam. Oh, sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So, like, will you live stream your live instruction so that the kids at home can get that?
They've given us a lot of different options to do that, but yes,
Okay.
they said if I'm doing a lecture or teaching in some way, I
Yeah.
have to be live and on camera. If the kids are working independently, I don't have to be live and on camera, but I have to be available during that class to help kids with questions. So yeah, and I kind of have to bounce back between both. Then the expectation is that we can help facilitate kids in class and kids at home at the same time.
Wow. And
And
so,
so
do you mind me asking you what tool you use to live stream?
we have so again, we've got an option. I can either there's a live stream within our platform that it's like
Okay.
literally part of like on our home screen will come up and you'll click, I can create a conference is what it's called.
Okay.
And they can get on that conference within their class. Like we have our set classes within our platform. And so nobody that's not in that class can get onto that conference, or I could use Microsoft Teams. All the
Okay.
kids, everybody has a Microsoft account. Every kid has a Microsoft account. So I've also tried to create as many ways that parents and kids can communicate with me as possible. Like Dustin talked about Remind. I use Remind too. It's fantastic. And
Okay.
I mean, Remind has a number of things you can do, but I pretty much just use it to send out a text and say, hey, you have this done tomorrow, or, but also like if I want to talk to a specific student, I can literally send them, it goes to their text messages without us actually having each other's phone number. So there's privacy issues that don't get messed up with Remind that I enjoy. So.
Okay. But do you have anything that specifically like follows you while you teach, like a specific camera or anything? Do either of you guys?
No, I don't. I think that what I'm going to do is just have my screen shared, because
Okay.
most of my stuff is going to be on technology anyways. I'm not sure that I'm going to necessarily use my whiteboard or anything like that. So I'm going to share the screen where they wouldn't be able to see me, and then hopefully just use AirPods and kind of walk around the room. It's my plan. I'm going to be experimenting the first week or two.
So, Dustin, a minute ago you mentioned the webcams and the kids adjusting, and some kids are on the webcam, others are not on the webcam, and it's funny because that same thing happens with adults in our in our corporate meetings and all that. So I just think it's funny that happens with kids and adults as well. But one question I wanted to ask, and Dustin, we'll start with you, is you had a couple of months back at the end of last year, March, April, May, and potentially June, depending on your school year. What is different for you from a tech perspective, from a strategy perspective? What is different between then and now that everybody's had a summer to kind of prepare and anticipate what's going on?
Sure. So the biggest difference for me is I'm in the building. So I'm going into school every day. I don't have any students in my classroom, but I'm going in every day. Obviously in March, April, May, we were at home, and I have an 8-month-old now, but she was 5 months in, and so I'm kind of trying to take care of her while my wife's working from home, and we're passing the baby back and forth between meetings, and I'm trying to, it was more of let's get a video with some notes posted or a lesson for the day posted, and kind of let the kids work, and maybe I was live 30 minutes a day or maybe a couple hours a week total. Whereas now I'm going in, and for me, there's bells ringing in the building. There's no kids, but the bells are going off, and so there's more of a structure there. And then from a content standpoint, we're in the spring. It was kind of like maybe you have a few more standards left, and then let's get the final exam taken and get out of here. And now we're starting from scratch, and so we've got kids that are brand new in subjects, and I'm teaching Algebra 2 and geometry, and these kids have never seen these concepts before, and so there's a whole lot more, I think, on our plate as far as we've got to get going and we've got to teach now. As far as being in the building versus home, at first I was really hesitant. I was like, if there's no kids there, I can do this from home, and I need to be around to help with our daughter and all of the above. But the county was pretty persistent about, we're going to be in the building, we're going to create as much of a school environment as we can, and I think it's paid off. I think it's been helpful for the kids. I think it's been helpful for us as teachers. I'm standing up at my board teaching every day as if there were kids there. I've kind of got my laptop off to the side, and I'm checking back and forth with the faces on the screen and trying to hear as much as I can and get some feedback. I might use the finger on the nose thing. I think I'm in for that one to get some. Sometimes I get some blank looks from high schoolers. Yeah, but that's been a huge change, and it feels completely different right now. And I'm sure it does for the kids. You know, I know there were kids in the spring that were like, I'm gonna log on in the morning. I'm gonna take an hour, get done what I need to get done for the day, and then I'm off. And I know now they're in at 7:20 and they're going pretty good until 2:10 that day. And so I'm sure that's a really different feeling for the kids and for parents at home. I'm sure that's a really different feeling for them as far as managing that and making sure their kids are where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think there is, like, this has been different, like, where I was all virtual then and we're kind of like whatever happened now. But I think there is more of a familiarity with the technology that we're using. We're using pretty similar technology. Like I was constantly trying to get kids to use technology before the pandemic. Like I would say, hey, I'm going to post this on, I'm not going to give you a piece of paper. I'm going to post it on our website or post it on our platform. And a lot of kids would just like go out of their way to not use the technology. Well, last spring they had to. So everybody's coming back with some familiarity with whatever we did. You know, there's not going to be a kid who's like, I have no idea how to use that. I've never done it. Well, yeah, everybody did it last spring. So you're going to get some kids and parents that might have been unsure about using technology or really, really wanted to, they wanted to do all their stuff paper and pencil or, you know, pen and paper. That they have at least met us part of the way now, you know.
Shannon, what about you? Since your kids, well, I guess your kids didn't have this last year. What do you anticipate being different?
I mean, I have to be honest. When we started first designing our Canvas pages, I was gearing it all towards parents because I just assumed that all the parents, you know, I was coming from it as a parent, and I thought, oh, I'll make it so that it's parent friendly. And then, as we really kind of talked about it, we need our kindergartners to eventually be independent and be able to click on the days of the week and find their instruction. And so we really, like, for lack of better words, we really dummied it down. We really made it simple. And so I feel like I said, I feel like we're going to spend some time at the very beginning of the year really getting them familiar with the technology, because we want them to feel comfortable using it, and we want them to know that that's our expectation, that this is how we are going to get the information to you. And especially even if they don't get on the whole group lesson, we'll be meeting with them in like small groups and one-on-one. And so we're really trying to design some specific times so that we can meet with students and make sure that they are using technology and checking in with them to make sure that they feel comfortable doing that and have the tools they need.
Excellent. So I want to kind of round it out here. The audience that's going to be listening to this is, you know, obviously our social media audience. It's mostly parents, number one, and employers. So I think we all know from a parental perspective what we want and what we need. But for you as teachers, what do you want employers to know? If you could tell them one thing, what would that be? So Kyle, let's start with you.
Be flexible, because like we can't plan what's going to happen in the next month. Like we have a plan, and that could change at any point. And like there's things going on that we can't control necessarily. There's a lot less we can control now than there has been in years past. So I think that parents need to be flexible with school districts and teachers, and then employers need to be flexible with those parents, because like it could be, you know, I've seen certain cases up near Dustin in Atlanta where it's like they went to school one day and then the next day they were virtual. Like it's that fast. And so that flexibility to me is the absolute biggest thing. That like it could be literally one morning a parent wakes up and their kid's school has gone from, you know, brick and mortar to virtual.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback on flexibility and just like having an understanding that we're all in this together, and that we're really trying to make it the best experience that we can. And that I think just that understanding of that we all have something, like we all have work, we all have kids, we all have something that's going to be a challenge for us, and to just be understanding about it. Just I feel like that flexibility part is so key, and then to just be understanding that we're all coming from different places, but that we all have the interest of our kids, of our students, that the best interest of our students in mind.
Dustin, last word goes to you before I close this out.
Yeah, I'm glad that both Kyle and Shannon mentioned flexibility. When we walked into our first faculty meeting of the year, our principal said, listen, our only word for the year is flexible. And the old saying, the only thing that's constant is change, is what's going on now. And so as teachers, we came back for a week planning to go all virtual indefinitely. And then a week into planning, the county announced a hybrid plan where we stagger students in. And so all of a sudden we were flipping all of our plans from a teacher's perspective. And I can only imagine from a student's perspective and from a parent's perspective. And then finally, what I keep falling back on with my students is trust, and just assuming trust that they're doing the best they can, and that whatever their situation is, they're trying to create the best of it. I hope parents trust teachers, parents trust their own students. I hope school systems trust students and parents the same, and then finally employers. Obviously, I talk to my kids all the time that all of a sudden the entire business world had to learn to trust their employees to work from home. And so if the entire business world can do that at once, then I'm going to give them that same trust until they prove it otherwise. And I think businesses flourish from a productivity standpoint with people working from home to the best of their abilities. And like we've had on the call, right, with Shannon's kids coming home. And that's part of it, right? Like our students are going to be, like I said, little brothers. I have parents popping over kids' shoulders being like, oh, you're in class, sorry, right? And so that's going to happen. That's going to happen with students and parents, and parents as employees and all of the above. So I hope we can be flexible and trust each other and keep getting through this the best we can.
And I'll say, as someone who's worked remotely for the last 10 years, when my kids knock on my door, start pounding on the door, if I forget to lock the door and they just happen to walk in, that's become a lot more socially acceptable in these meetings, so which I appreciate. So Dustin, Kyle, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's really helpful for us to just get teachers' perspectives from high school all the way down to elementary. So we really appreciate it. For those watching, thank you for joining us. We went a little longer today, but that was kind of the intent. There's a lot of different things going on, wanted to share. Be sure to like, be sure to comment. And if you have questions for any of these teachers, shoot a comment over there or shoot a note to myself or the BTR team, and we'll be happy to engage with these three teachers and get questions answered. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on our next episode of Back to School.